One person is dead and another in hospital.
It is heartbreaking.
After dangerous levels of carbon monoxide is found in a northeast home. PM Carney and President Zelensky meet at the G7.
We are providing additional military assistance.
Canada's multi-billion-dollar pledge of support and the mixed feelings among some in the Ukrainian community.
Definitely the separation thing for sure is on my mind.
Advanced voting in 3 by-elections kicks off, and a candidates forum in 1 southern Alberta riding.
CTV Calgary, local breaking news with Camilla Di Giuseppe.
Good evening. One person is dead. A second person was rushed to hospital after firefighters responded to a northeast home with dangerously high readings of carbon monoxide. Just after 4 this afternoon, first responders arrived at a home on Martha's Close northeast. After CFD says a neighbor found the residence. Carbon monoxide levels reached 360 parts per million in the home. Calgary Fire says they normally evacuate buildings between 25 to 50 parts per million. Despite life-saving efforts, 1 adult was pronounced dead on scene. A second person is in serious but stable condition and taken to hospital. Neighbors are saddened by the tragic news.
It is heartbreaking, to be honest with you. My heart goes to them, the family as well, the grieving family. But all the neighbors are in shock as well. I was talking to all of our neighbors because most of them are young families, lives here, right? So they are just in a state of shock what happened.
The investigation is ongoing. Calgary police telling us tonight no foul play is suspected. Calgary Fire says no alarms went off in the house. They are looking at whether a gas generator might have been the cause for the CO buildup. Thunderstorms rolled through the Calgary area late this afternoon. 1 lightning strike hit a house in the West Hillhurst area. A bolt of lightning hit the home located on 21st Street Northwest, through the roof and then into the kitchen. Fortunately, it did not spark a fire. The homeowner and his wife were in different rooms when it happened and they were not hurt. The fire department tried to patch up the roof as best as they could. The homeowners described the moment of impact.
All of a sudden, the picture window just lit up like the sun, and all of a sudden crash, and could smell insulation burning or smell something burning, and went into the kitchen, and there was plaster shrapnel all over the kitchen.
Johnson says along with the cleanup, he will be calling his insurance company. Danielle is in with our first look at the weather. Lots of active weather late this afternoon.
And you know, we didn't have severe storms in Calgary. We didn't have the larger size hail, or there was the excessively strong wind gusts. But we had lightning, and lightning can always do damage, as we've just showed you. So definitely it was something to take seriously today, and will continue to be something to take seriously tomorrow, because that risk is back once again. The morning should be nice and mainly sunny up until about 2 in the afternoon. After that, that's when we get into the risk of thunderstorms once again, anywhere from 2 p.m. tomorrow till about 11 p.m. More details coming up.
Thank you very much, Danielle. A by-election in Old Didsbury, Three Hills is set for Monday, with advance voting getting underway today. Ahead of casting their ballots, some voters attended a candidates forum this evening. Jacqueline Wilson has the details.
The polls are open for advance voting in 3 provincial by-elections. 2 are in Edmonton, where NDP leader Naheed Nenshi hopes to win in Edmonton-Strathcona. The 3rd is in the Old Didsbury Three Hills riding. Voters here have a number of issues on their minds.
Stuff that's important to me: oil and gas, beef, firearms, that sort of thing.
Definitely the separation thing for sure is on my mind.
The money they're spending in hospital and stuff, and our school finances in our school. We need to build more schools.
On Tuesday, 3 of the 4 candidates participated in a forum in Old. NDP candidate Beverly Taves was unable to attend because of another commitment.
Alberta's culture is grounded in the foundations of faith, family, and freedom.
The riding saw its MLA, former Speaker Nathan Cooper, step down earlier this year to become Alberta's envoy in Washington, D.C. The UCP has held the seat since its party's inception, but before that, it's bounced between the Wild Rose and Progressive Conservatives.
This by-election is a choice between a strong, united Conservative voice or a divided movement that lets the NDP back in.
The Republican Party of Alberta candidate Cam Davies is hoping to take advantage of tension between the province and Ottawa to push Alberta separation.
I think it's going to be a very interesting race to watch. Add to all of that the fact that the one separatist candidate that has ever been elected in Alberta history happened in what was old Stidsbury. In other words, overlapping with this current riding. And that suggests that there may be a bit more openness in this particular riding, both in terms of its history and just in terms of current political dynamics.
Advance voting runs until Saturday, with the election set for Monday. Jacqueline Wilson, CTV News, Olds.
On Election Day, polls will be open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. For more information on voter eligibility, registration, or ways to vote, head to elections.ab.ca. Well, Canada is making a bigger commitment to Ukraine. The announcement as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the G7 summit in Kananaskis. Hours after Donald Trump left the summit, Zelensky arrived, although with a heavy heart, as Russia has attacked his country once again. Prime Minister Mark Carney is committing another $2 billion in aid to Ukraine and $2.3 billion to help rebuild its infrastructure. The immediate need in Ukraine is military assistance.
It's important for our soldiers to be strong at the battlefield, to stay strong until Russia will be ready for the peace negotiations.
Carney says the increased military spending will help Canada reach its NATO targets, which was praised by the head of NATO, who is also here for the summit. Zelensky's presence at the summit, along with fresh promises of sanctions against Russia and support for Ukraine, is bringing renewed hope to Alberta's Ukrainian community. But as Terry Fikowski reports, some feel snubbed by the early departure of the U.S. president.
Prime Minister Mark Carney welcomes Ukraine's president to Kananaskis, but the meeting was overshadowed by a night of deadly strikes back home.
One of the biggest attacks from the very beginning of this war.
Ukraine's capital was bombarded overnight Tuesday with Russian missiles and drones, killing more than a dozen people and injuring 130 more. Canada is pledging over $4 billion in additional support to Ukraine and new sanctions targeting Russia.
Drones, helicopters, broader munitions, over $2 billion worth of assistance.
Canada's backing and Zelensky's invitation from Carney to attend the G7 summit is monumental for the Ukrainian community.
It's one of the ways to show that the world do not forget us.
Many rallied leading up to his arrival in Alberta and showed other signs of support.
He is a hero. He is our champion.
But there is disappointment with the U.S. president's absence. Donald Trump left the summit early due to the escalating violence and conflict in the Middle East.
Come on, I don't believe he cannot do this from Kananaskis even to make some decisions, but to stay and to show the respect to all those leaders who came.
Watching discussions unfold is Lee Reeney, the chief editor at the Lviv Times. He questioned Trump's early exit after the tense meeting at the White House earlier this year.
There's a big sentiment in Ukraine that he left primarily because he did not want to deal with Zelensky. He did not want to deal with the questions.
Despite Trump's absence, the director of the G7 research group believes Zelensky will consider his trip to the summit a success.
Boy, he's going to walk away from here with a lot more money, a lot more arms, and a lot more sanctions against Russia. So he'd be pretty happy when he leaves.
Premier Danielle Smith posting online, greeting Zelensky on his arrival, writing Alberta stands with Ukraine, a sign of hope for those watching the war and heartbreak unfold back home.
Really hopeful that this will bring us a step closer to peace.
In Banff, Terry Fikowski, CTV News.
The Ukrainian-Canadian Congress says they met with Zelensky today during his G7 summit, adding the president expressed gratitude to Canada's Ukrainian community. Well, members of Calgary's Iranian community are speaking out, sharing emotional stories about the toll of a conflict involving Israel and their hopes for change. Israel launched a coordinated strike on Iran last week, triggered by growing concerns over Tehran's nuclear program and alleged covert threats. Since then, missile exchanges have escalated, fueling tensions in a region already deeply divided. The developments are hitting home for Calgarians like Farhad Dargahi, who now runs a Persian carpet shop, but fled Iran more than 30 years ago after persecution from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps for defending human rights. He fears for families still in Iran, but says many local community members feel it's the regime, not foreign bombs, that's most dangerous.
Every one of us has lost some member in the family, either during the war, Iran-Iraq war, or the execution, or the imprisonment. My sister, for example, passed away last year. She was arrested for 3 times. She's been tortured.
People of Iran kind of are happy to see these places are down, but at the same time, we are worried for our families, for our friends.
As the conflict deepens overseas, many Iranian Calgarians that we spoke to say they're left holding their breath, fearing what the next strike could mean for those back home. Police say a motorcycle driver lost control and crashed, leaving him in life-threatening condition. It happened just before 1 a.m. along the on-ramp from Stony Trail to Deerfoot Trail in the southeast. Police say the 39-year-old lost control on the ramp, slid sideways, and fell off the bike before it hit a guardrail. Investigators are looking at whether excessive speed played a role. Police would like to hear from anyone who may have dash cam or CCTV footage from the area at the time. Criminal charges have been dropped against a former Calgary 911 operator accused of sharing sensitive police information to gang members. Marion Wanning-Contry was charged with breach of trust, fraudulent use of a computer system, and mischief relating to police data. She did plead guilty to 3 counts under the Freedom of Information Act. Police alleged data was pulled from searches linked to those involved in organized crime and then given to other gang members. Wanning-Contry is now ordered to pay $10,000 for each of the 3 FOIP convictions. Coming up, taking action against blanket rezoning. Lakeview is the latest Calgary community looking into restricted covenants. Japan Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba held a press conference in Calgary after the G7 summit. He says after meeting with President Donald Trump, the 2 nations still have not reached a tariff agreement. Trump imposed 25% levies on Japanese auto imports. The summit also ended without a joint statement of support for Ukraine after word the U.S. wanted to water down the language. From the early exit of one leader to the expanded security zones, there are a number of reasons this G7 looks different than others. But the biggest change might be here in Calgary and in Banff, where the lack of protests has been extremely noticeable. Tim Brooke has more.
6 for Justice were back in front of City Hall Tuesday, protesting the G7 invite given to the Indian Prime Minister. But despite cameras watching their every move and broadcasting it to Kananaskis, the protest was subdued, just like Monday. And the other 2 demonstration zones were completely empty.
Fairly light on protests. I think yesterday we had about 80 to 85 people at the designated demonstration zone, and today it's even lighter.
One humanities professor chalks some of that up to a massive police presence.
Because we've seen these kind of violent clampdowns and this security regime, it's become less viable, I think, for people to engage.
Calgary Police, Mounties, Alberta sheriffs, and police teams from Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Vancouver are all on site. Add in the fact these designated zones are far away from any leaders, and you can see why groups like Greenpeace and Oxfam would skip this G7.
I think a lot of activists have realized that these aren't the best ways to spend their energy.
It's all so different from recent summits in Italy and Germany. But those events may be why this one looks like it does.
Well, we always plan for essentially the worst, right? So you plan for contingencies because it's unpredictable. You really don't know what the numbers are going to be.
Either way, those protesters who came are still holding out hope their voices are being heard.
We are trying our best. So I hope that world leader read the news. They know what's going on, why we are protesting.
Tim Brooke, CTV News, Calgary.
The two-day summit has now wrapped. The G7 Integrated Safety and Security Group is advising that a visible security presence will continue over the coming days as the massive undertaking winds down. Well, the province wants industry leaders to come up with a solution for tailings ponds, and now there's $50 million in funding up for grabs. The Tailings Technology Challenge has officially launched. The goal is to encourage tech innovations or natural solutions to clean up tailings ponds and oil sands mine water. Tailings are a mix of water, sand, chemicals, and bitumen that cause environmental damage when left untouched. Government leaders hope that a funding challenge will result in quick action to address tailing ponds.
But it really does help to kickstart some of that new technology. A lot of the work Emissions Reduction Alberta does is taking new technology and encouraging it to get to scale and adoption. And so we're pretty excited to see what might come out of this.
The money for the challenge is from the industry-funded Technology Innovation and Emissions Reduction Regulation Fund. The challenge closes on September 24th. Residents in a southwest Calgary community are considering legal options to combat blanket rezoning. A group in Lakeview is looking at restricted covenants to block high-density homes on their properties. Jordan Canagan has more.
A year after Calgary passed controversial citywide rezoning rules, communities are still pushing back.
It's really to take back choice in our neighborhood in terms of what sort of zoning and what sort of development we're going to allow.
Lakeview is the latest community offering information on restricted covenants. It's a legal action a homeowner can register on a land title to stipulate all future development.
So we are allowing people to have secondary suites if they sign up to the restrictive covenants. But we are trying to preserve the wide lots.
Blanket rezoning was passed to speed up the approval and building process for developments such as duplexes and row homes. A covenant would only allow single-family homes on a property that has one. They're very difficult to remove, but courts have overturned them in the past.
I think that's why property rights exist, and individuals are able to do what they choose with their properties as long as it abides within a given bylaw and within the rules of the law.
The community group cites a proposed fourplex on this corner lot as an example of concern. The redevelopment is currently under appeal with the city.
This is between community members. This is, between neighbors. This is the conversation that they need to have amongst themselves about the growth and the evolution and the change of their neighborhoods and what they want.
In a statement, the Lakeview Community Association says decisions on how to proceed are entirely up to individual homeowners. The LCA does not endorse or oppose the use of restrictive covenants. Each landowner must determine what is best for their property and circumstances.
This is not about being anti-development in any way. This is really about giving people the choice to sign up or not.
Jordan Canagan, CTV News, Calgary.
People who want to register a restrictive covenant have to pay $750 to do so. Sessions have been held in several communities, including Lake Bonavista and Varsity. Danielle's up next with her Skywatch forecast, and there is more rain coming later in the week.
Well, today was definitely an active day in Calgary and in many communities in southern and central Alberta. Today in Calgary, we did get to 24 degrees. As the thunderstorms blew through Calgary around 4 p.m., our temperatures dropped 10 degrees in just a matter of about 20 minutes. And we went down to 14, and then we started bouncing back up again. So temperatures were a little all over the place for the afternoon hours. When you look at the entire country here, well, mid-20s for Regina, high 20s for Saskatoon and Thunder Bay and Montreal. So a lot of warmth out there throughout the country. All right, here's a look at the earlier activity we had today. I do have to mention we have the potential for thunderstorm activity up until about 1 a.m. and then things will officially fully quiet down in all communities in southern Alberta. Very interesting thing going on in the Pacific. There's actually two major lows here that are starting to combine. And what that could lead to is some really intense rainfall for us later this week in Calgary, in surrounding areas, in parts of southern Alberta. 60 plus millimeters, some models are suggesting from this when you look at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll break it down for you in the long-range forecast in just a minute. But again, up until about 1 a.m., potential for thunderstorm activity, Calgary and south and off to the east, but then it quiets down. This is a look at tomorrow morning. Calgary, all of southern Alberta should be mainly sunny, should be quiet out there. So a nice start to the day. But again, we have that instability and we have these pockets of thunderstorm activity and showers that will develop, especially up the QE2, even parts of the Trans-Canada up to Brooks and over and off to the east of the QE2. We could see this activity in Calgary as well, and this could start as early as 2 in the afternoon tomorrow. I'm going to fast forward here now till Friday, and Friday is when if we get impacted by these systems that are now out on the Pacific, the track that they're on is to affect us starting Friday afternoon. And here's an indication of what we could see with regards to rainfall. So just tomorrow, 24 degrees, sunshine in the morning, thunderstorms later in the day, especially after 2 p.m. Then it should be fairly stable on Thursday with a high of 23. First official day of summer on Friday, and it will be cold and rainy, so not summery at all. 15 to 25 millimeters of rain possible Friday, 20 to 30 for Saturday, and another few millimeters on Sunday, and we'll hold on to those cold temperatures for Friday right through Sunday.
All right, Danielle, thanks. We'll talk about a field trip. Now, these students won't go into space, but their satellite will. We'll explain next.
The Panthers begin to celebrate.
Florida beat the Oilers 5-1 in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight, clinching back-to-back championships. The Panthers beat Edmonton in 7 games for the Cup last year. Their victory means the last Canadian team to win hockey's top trophy remains the Montreal Canadiens in 1993. Some Calgary students are putting finishing touches on an extracurricular project that's headed for space. University of Calgary students started the Calgary to Space team in 2020. They are now doing final testing before the satellite is scheduled to board a SpaceX rocket. It's roughly the size of a loaf of bread and will orbit about 500 kilometers above Earth, taking images, collecting data, and testing a boom. If all goes as planned, they say Calgary's first student-built satellite will be launched into space this fall.
This is the first one for Calgary, so we're really excited to start that trend and kind of get Calgary a little access point to space.
Students came up with the idea on their own and did all of the work outside class time. Students also had to raise about $200,000 and navigate federal and international regulations. Good for them. All right, that's it for us here at CTV News at 11:30. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Good night.